is J.J. Watt, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and for a time was being touted as MVP. He's that kind of player. He's been that dominant all year long, as Houston has won the toss, and they will receive. And so Matt Schaub won't have to wait long to get his first try. Josh Brown, who's had a great year here, in place of the injured Mike Nugent. And it is Daniel Manning back deep. No stranger to kickoff returns. He led the NFL with nearly a 30-yard average for the Bears 4 years ago. And as Kubiak says, you don't protect any players. He's a starting safety, but here comes Manning out close to the 15-yard line, and that is where the Texans will start. Let's meet the Houston offense.
Matt Schaub, Virginia.
Arian Foster, University of Tennessee.
James Casey, Rice University.
Andre Johnson, the U.
Kevin Walter, Eastern Michigan.
Owen Daniels, on Wisconsin.
Dwayne Brown, Virginia Tech. Wade Smith, the University of Memphis.
Chris Myers, Miami Palmetto Middle School.
Ben Jones, Georgia.
Derek Newton, Arkansas State.
So Arian Foster in the backfield for Schaub, who's playing his 119th game in the NFL, but first in the playoffs. And the play action is to Foster, and rolling right is Schaub, who gets out of bounds for a decent game as Robert Gathers up there on that talented Bengal defensive line chased him out.
And Dan, I really kind of liked what Alex said in the pregame show as far as Schaub having to cut it loose. And you could say the same thing about Andy Dalton. I think both of them kind of limped into the playoffs, and both of them I felt were indecisive. The quarterback that's able to let it rip, I think, has a big advantage today.
All Schaub was able to get was a yard, and again that running game for the Texans so important to set up that play action for Schaub. That has been absent for the most part of the end of the season, and here's Foster, not much there at all. In fact, he lost a few. Reggie Nelson in there to drop him for a 4-yard loss.
You know, Domata Peko, the nose tackle, 94, easy to find with all that hair. What a nice job he does. Reading screen, fights off Myers, gets through Dwayne Brown, forces the ball carrier back inside where Nelson cleans it up.
This is one of the hottest defenses in the league. They have given up an average of 11.9 points a game in the last 8 games of the season. As Schaub works out of the shotgun here on 3rd and long, just the kind of situation that they've been in that they don't want to be in, that has plagued them the last portion of the season. Schaub to the air. That's complete at the 20 to Owen Daniels, but he's well short of the first down. Good gain of 8, but that will bring up 4th down in the punt unit for Houston.
Yeah, that's a win for the Cincinnati defense right there. And Dan, the comment you just made, this team is best when Matt Schaub is under center, running the football, play action. They're not a shotgun 3rd and 12 team. That's just not who they are, and that's what they've done the whole last month of the season.
There's Adam Jones back deep to receive the Donnie Jones punt. Chance for some pretty good field position on their opening drive as Jones lets it roll, tries to reverse his field, and then is brought down short of the 40. 42-yard punt brought down by Alan Ball as we meet the Cincinnati offense.
Andy Dalton, TCU.
Gonzalez Green Ellis, the law firm, Ole Miss.
AJ Green, University of Georgia.
Marvin Jones, Cal Berkeley.
Jermaine Gresham, the University of Oklahoma.
Orson Charles from the University of Georgia.
Andrew Whitworth, LSU. Clem Bolin, Georgia.
Kyle Cook, Michigan State. Kevin Zeitler, Wisconsin. Andre Smith, Rose High.
So as Dalton sets up at the 38, he's got a key player back, and that is Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, who gets the call. J.J. Watt doesn't waste any time making his presence known.
Yeah, guess who? All he did right there is bench press the right tackle, Andre Smith, and use his quickness to win back inside. Here he is right here. Run game, pass game, it doesn't matter. Watt, one of the quickest people you'll see.
Green Ellis, who had to sit out last week's game as he tweaked a hamstring, had a career year in rushing over 1,000 yards, and on 2nd and 8, Dalton, who played his high school football just about a half hour away in Katy, Texas, with his first pass, and it's in and out of the arms of Jermaine Gresham, the tight end.
got to catch that football. It's a hot read. Gresham's just going to look right away. He does everything right except catch the football. Dalton put him right on it. That was a blitz by Houston and an opportunity to make a play for Gresham. And Dan, you can't let those operate. I know it's early in the game, but Jermaine Gresham's your second best receiver. You got to catch the football.
So the 70,000 plus pumping up their defense on 3rd and 8. And Dalton's pass is bounced off of Gresham. 4th down, and Cincinnati will be forced to punt in his first possession.
Yeah, I think one of the most underrated players in the league is Glover Quinn. You're going to see him right here in their dime package. He's got the tight end, contacts him, comes underneath, drives through the shoulder pad to the football. That's a good play by a very aggressive defensive back, Glover Quinn.
So the Bengals were able to move the ball 2 yards, and this is Kevin Huber to punt for Cincinnati, and Daniel Manning back deep. Actually, it's Keyshawn Martin, number 82, handling the punt duties here. First off, takes it at the 7, reverses his field, and digs himself a deeper hole, gets it to the 10, and that is it. A flag is thrown at the 7. 53-yard punt by Huber, and just a 3-yard return by Martin.
During the return, illegal block in the back, number 48 on the receiving team. Half the distance to the goal. First down, timeout.
Penalties just killed the Texans down the stretch when they lost 3 out of 4. Early here at Reliance Stadium, no score. Not exactly a stellar day outside of Reliance Stadium. Cold, rainy, but the Texans here starting for the second time, the first time at their 15th, this time backed up at their own 4. And on the ground, it's Foster looking for some room. A couple. It'll bring up 2nd down and 8 or 7. And so we're getting an early look here to see if Houston can generate some kind of running game here, and that's the guy you start with right there.
Yeah, I enjoy talking to him. He still has a little bit of chip on his shoulder from being undrafted in 09. And I think it drives him to become a better football player. Going back to the Pro Bowl this year, he's one of the top 4 or 5 players in this league at tailback and might be the best pure zone runner in the league.
Signed a new contract, undrafted. 23 running backs were taken before Foster in the NFL draft. And this pass is complete to Daniels in the clear for a first down. Reggie Nelson brought him down, but not before a gain of 17.
Yeah, he got underneath Maluga. Maluga's got to get this thing walled off. See, Maluga goes over the top. Daniels comes underneath it. That's too easy. The first thing Ray Maluga has to take away is that crossing route, and coaches call it walling it off. Don't let him get to the other side in the cross.
The 2 mainstays receiver-wise for Schaub, Johnson, and Daniels. Here's the toss to Foster, and there is Arian Foster for another first down across the 40. And this is the kind of Houston offense that the fans were used to seeing when they went 11-1.
Dwayne Brown's going to a Pro Bowl for a reason. They're going to pull him out. Look at him get to the 2nd level and just envelop his defender. And again, the cut up into the hole. And Owen Daniels, who's not a great blocker at the point of attack, but if you get him on the move on a defensive back like Leon Hall, he can at least wall him off and let Foster get up inside.
Foster with another sensational year, more than 1,400 yards on the ground, 15 rushing touchdowns. That is Daniels in motion, who leads Foster into the line and across the 45-yard line as we meet the Bengal defense.
Robert Gathers, Georgia.
Domata Peko, Michigan State University.
Gino Ekin, all about the G, go Dogs.
Mike Johnson, Georgia Tech. Manny Lawson, Eastern Wayne High School.
Ray Maulunga, the University of Southern California.
Vontaze Burfict, Arizona State.
Terrence Newman, Kansas State University.
Reggie Nelson, University of Florida.
Nate Clements, The Ohio State University.
Leon Hall, Michigan.
And this is a Bengal defense, in the words of its coordinator, Mike Zimmer, is playing pretty salty right now. But Houston has them on their back here as they go around to Keyshawn Martin, and he's got the first down. Gain of 15 by Martin as the Texan offense is really rolling.
Yeah, Michael Johnson, the defensive end. Flow goes away, and everybody goes with him. Great play call, Keyshawn Martin. It's a space player. They find creative ways to get him the football. You saw 93 turn and run. There's got to be discipline on the backside of this zone offense. Really good play call by Rick Dennison.
This drive started at their own 4, but at the Bengal 38 and shot to the air. That ball is caught by Foster, trying to tightrope his way down the sidelines. But they've got him all the way back at the 30, where they marked him out.
Whenever you can get Foster man-to-man on a linebacker like Maaluga, it's a mismatch, and you'll see him go right there. Yeah, no doubt about it. I like the pace they're playing at right now. Couple of short passes, both victimizing Ray Maaluga.
The Texan offense has scored just 1 touchdown in the last 2 games. Ben Tate is in the backfield behind Schaub on 2nd and 2. And Tate grabs it, and he's going to be well short of the first down. Inside, just outside the 30 there. So the Bengal defense ready for Tate.
And that was Geno Atkins that time. It just blew it up on the inside. But when you talk about this team, Matt Schaub, what has this drive been all about? He's been under center. They've run the football. They've gotten the ball out of his hands quickly. Nothing down the field. 1 reverse to Keyshawn Martin. This is who they are when they're most effective. When he's in shotgun on 3rd and 7+, that's not them.
3rd and short. Foster is back in. Play fake to Foster. Some pressure for Schaub, but he gets rid of it. And unable to hold on is Daniels, who had the first down, juggled it, but couldn't retain it.
Yeah, he's got to catch this football. And again, it's in between Maaluga and the rookie, Emmanuel Lemur. Crossing route. There he goes across the face of Maaluga again. No awareness by Lemur. This ball's got to be caught. I know you got to reach for it, but that's a first down.
Instead, it's going to be a field goal attempt here of 48 yards by Shane Graham, who has been very good. He's a former Bengal that actually is the all-time accuracy leader in Bengal history, but trying to get Houston out in front, and it had plenty of leg and just inside the upright. So Gary Kubiak and the Houston Texans on the board first. 3-0. 7:49 left in the first. J.J. Watt awaits another turn here. And Shane Graham, who just gave the Houston Texans a 3-0 lead with a 48-yard field goal. Adam Jones again back deep, takes it, juggles it, comes out of the end zone. And brought down at the 16-yard line. And that is where Andy Dalton will begin again. Bengals trailing 3-0. AFC Wildcard Saturday on NBC. Well, if there was ever a home game feel on the road for Andy Dalton, it's right here at Reliant Stadium. We mentioned he played his high school football at nearby Katy High School, just about 30 miles due west of Houston. He has set aside 65 tickets for his family and friends and everybody who claims to have ever known Andy Dalton in the Houston area. So another big year for him as he tries to win for the first time, and this is Ben Jarvis. Green Ellis who gets loose for Dalton, and he's all the way to the 45-yard line before Glover Quinn brings him down. Gain of 29 for Green Ellis, back in the lineup for the Bengals.
They're going to get a pull here, and then the fullback up in the hole. Nice job at the point of attack. And Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, we talk about both these teams. They're run-first teams. Their quarterbacks are better when you can protect them by running the football. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis has had that hamstring, looked pretty healthy there.
Green Ellis had just 400-yard games in 4 seasons with New England. He had that many in 5 games this year with the Bengals as Dalton avoids the pressure and gets out of bounds.
Kind of fun talking to Dalton yesterday a little bit. You mentioned that he's a local guy from Katy, Texas. He was 3-0 in this stadium, twice in high school. Played here. What did he tell us? He had the first touchdown pass for a high school player ever
in Reliant Stadium when he was a high school player there. He split time as a starter his junior year, Ended up being the starter his senior year, and then of course he went on to play his college ball at Texas Christian, but a good record for Dalton. In fact, he was unbeaten here at Reliant Stadium until last year's loss. 2nd and 7. That is just swallowed up by number 98, Connor Barwin. Loss of 6.
Yeah, he eyed this thing the whole time. Connor Barwin's eyeing the tailback. Marvin's taking a look at the replay too. Watch him eye it. He sees it right away. He shadows him. Effectively a man-to-man situation, and he blows it up.
So 3rd and long, ball at the 41. After Connor Barwin broke it up. Former basketball player at Cincinnati. And also played a little tight end for the football team as well. 3rd and 13 for Dalton. Feels the pressure, and down he goes. Dalton, who was sacked 46 times this year, is met by Mr. Watt. Loss of 9.
This is why he's so good. Watch him cross the face of the center. He comes across the guard, across the center. Leonard doesn't see him. Kyle Cook barely gets a hand on him, and Dalton says, hello.
J.J. Watt, who led the NFL with 20.5 sacks, picks up his first of this postseason. As Keyshawn Martin awaits his 20 and gets it out to the 31-yard line for a return of 11, 47-yard punt. J.J. Watt with his first sack of Andy Dalton. It was a December to forget for the Houston Texans as they rolled out 11-1 in their first 12 games. Look at the number and the rankings in the NFL, and then they just hit the skids in the last 4 games, going 1-3.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind who they played those last 4 games. They had New England, they had Indy twice, and Minnesota. All 3 of those teams, playoff teams. So part of that explains the numbers.
Got the best field position to start this drive, just across the 30. And Schaub takes a deep drop, and he's got Owen Daniels on the sidelines. That'll bring up 2nd down. But we mentioned at the top how this whole city is just on edge, and the pressure that Gary Kubiak has felt to somehow, as he said, get his team's mojo back. And they have felt the heat, not only from the media here in Houston, but everybody around the league, trying to figure out what happened to this team that was on its way to the top seed and then blew 2 opportunities in the final 2 games that would have wrapped up home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So here they are on the wild card as Arian Foster. Not much at all there. Maualuga up front on the stop.
Yeah, and I really think they lost some of their identity in those games. They played good teams. They got behind early. And when you get behind on the scoreboard or in the down and distance, Gary Kubiak told us the other day, he said, we ran shotgun more in the last 4 games than we did the first 12 of the season. And that's not our identity.
He told his team, disappointment is part of life. Misery is not an option. There will be no misery around here. 3rd and 3. Schaub close to the first down as the ball is caught just across the 40 by Kevin Walter, the former Bengal.
It's a good secure tackle by Leon Hall.
And that is a first down, just barely.
But Dan, they're more in their identity now. That led the first drive, they went bootleg, they ended up 3rd and 12, they had the punt. The second drive was more like the Houston Texans, and again here, when you see Matt Schaub in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, when he can throw the football with his back foot hitting, ball out, no pressure, that's when he's really good.
And again, the playoff debut for Schaub. Play action. Deep down the field, another first down as the ball is caught at the Bengal 40 by Andre Johnson, the 6-time Pro Bowler, with a gain of 19.
Boy, this opens up beautifully for the quarterback. Watch him go. Schaub looks up. Look at it open up. You've got the big alley to throw it in. And again, when you don't pressure Matt Schaub, when you don't hit him, when you don't get bodies on him, when the back foot hits and the ball comes out cleanly, he's very good. You got to beat up Matt Schaub if you want to win this football game.
Another huge year for Johnson, now in his 10th season. Schaub 7 of 8 for 58 yards in the early going here. As he hands it off to Foster, fights for a couple before he's shaken down there at about the 38. Geno Atkins a part of the Bengal defense to stop him. Let's send it down to Alex.
Well, Dan, you mentioned Andre Johnson, his first catch in this game. You know, a lot of people questioning early on in the season if Andre Johnson had lost a step, if he was getting too old in this league. What a lot of people didn't know is that he had his knee scoped twice, once right after the season last year and in the preseason. He said it took him some time to get back to playing. And Dan, of course, he went on to have a phenomenal second half of the season.
2nd and 8. Schaub steps up. Incomplete, intended for Daniels, and we've got a flag that comes in right away.
This time Schaub gets some pressure. He steps up. Obviously,
Pass
the rookie perfect
number
all over
55
him.
in the defense. The ball will be played to spot a foul. Automatic first down.
And that's who it's called on, Vontaze Burfict, who has been one of the great stories in the NFL this year. Free agent rookie signing out of Arizona State. A lot of people were wary of his character, didn't want to take a chance on him. They knew he had some talent, but he ends up having a great year, coming in for Thomas Howard, starting for him after Howard was injured. 1st and 10. Foster gets close to the 20, brought down by Robert Gathers after a gain of 5. But Burfict is what a story he is, Mike.
Look, this kid was one of the most gifted high school players coming out 4 years ago. Played poorly his last year at Arizona State. 32 teams passed on him 7 times, and Marvin Lewis, the head coach, met with him in his pro day and told him he had to get his act together. And when the head coach of an NFL team takes personal interest in an undrafted rookie, it can make a difference.
2nd and 5. This is Foster looking for a hole close to the first down. Looks like he got it, and Burfict, who was all over the field in the final regular season last week, where he was credited for more than 20 tackles, brings down Foster, but that'll bring up 3rd and short.
Understand this, Marvin Lewis is the guy that was the point man on the Burfict deal. They knew there was some talent there. They knew they had to get him in shape, first of all. He was out of shape as a senior. They got him in shape, they brought him into camp, and they handed him over to Mike Zimmer. And Mike Zimmer was like, I'm not sure I want this guy. I didn't like him on tape, and I thought he had some attitude. I'm not sure we need this guy. But on a daily basis, it was Mike Zimmer and his position coach, Paul Gunther. And those two guys on a daily basis, A, have made him into a heck of a football player, and B, as a human being, he's been nothing but pleasure in that building. So what do they get out of him, Dan? 16 starts, 174 tackles, which led the team. And now they've got a player for the next 7 to 10 years if he stays healthy and keeps his attitude where it's been. They've got a high-level, weak-side linebacker.
It's one of those finds that rarely come along, but when you do take a chance like Marvin Lewis and you fly down there and kind of put the chips on the table and spend some time, and it pays off like Burfict has, it's especially gratifying. They are short of the first down, 3rd and less than a yard.
Brandon Brooks is in at right guard. He's a 340-pound massive brawler. Rookie out of Miami of Ohio.
In motion goes Foster to the near side, and Schaub is trying to get the first down. He's the only quarterback not to run for 1 first down in this season. So if he picks that up, it's a milestone for Schaub.
Keep in mind, last year he got hurt on a quarterback sneak.
But can you believe that? A guy that plays the whole year.
Look,
and we just saw him pick up his first down of the season.
I saw him play at Westchester East in high school outside of Philadelphia, and I knew he couldn't run back then. He could throw, but he couldn't run.
So that brings us to the end of the first quarter, as Matt Schaub and the Houston Texans trying to add to their 3-0 lead. Marvin Lewis and the Bengals trying to pick up that elusive playoff win. Into the first quarter, Houston 3, Cincinnati 0. Houston Texans looking to add to their 3-0 lead at the Bengal 12 with a 1st and 10, which is just secured by Schaub. The ball at the 17, 1st and 10 for Schaub. And the give is to Foster. He's got nowhere to go along the left side. Remember, Matt Schaub was wearing a headset last year. TJ Yates was the quarterback down the stretch for the regular season and the playoffs for the Houston Texans. And we talked to Schaub yesterday, Mike. He told us how much of an appreciation he gained, as you look at Yates, for just seeing how the whole orchestrated process comes together, listening on the headset to the coordinator, to the plays come in. And he just said that he gained a whole another side of it from that perspective. Of course, he's happy to be back into the controls here and trying to win for Houston. And that ball complete to Garrett Graham.
You notice so far, Matt Schaub hasn't even been touched in the pass game. And if you're a Houston fan, that's what you want to see. Everything's been on time. They're running the ball effectively. This is the Houston we saw the first 12 weeks of the season. If you're a Cincinnati fan, you know your offense has not been explosive. And you need to hold them, worst case scenario, to a field goal on this possession.
On 3rd and 8, big Geno Atkins, who led the Bengals with 12.5 sacks. Trying to force the Texans to a field goal. That is short of the 1st down, as it is complete to Walter. And that indeed will bring out the field goal unit for the Texans after a gain of 5. So a little bit of frustration there on Kubiak's face, having to go for another field goal.
I like what Schaub did here. You're going to get pressure from Geno Atkins. He steps up, eyes down the field. That's the key to it all. Keep the eyes. Watch him. Eyes down the field, snap it out. But it's a win for the Cincinnati defense, forcing the field goal.
Shane Graham made 45 straight field goals from 45 yards or closer. It's an amazing streak, which began when he kicked his final game for the Bengals in a wild card playoff game 3 years ago. So the 27-yarder there adds to the Houston lead. 6-0, 13:07 in the half. Houston Texans off of 2 field goals by Shane Graham with a 6-0 lead. But if you're Cincinnati, who really has been outplayed, time of possession, yards, you got to be pretty happy so far, Mike.
As badly as Cincinnati has played so far, and let's face it, they got dominated the first quarter, 112 yards to 19. You're very fortunate that you're only down 6.
Adam Jones again takes it 5 yards deep from his own end zone, and Adam Jones across the 25 with a good return to about the 27.
Yeah, Brandon Harris doesn't make that tackle. Pac-Man might still be running. We got a 6-0 ball game.
J.J. Watt prowling the defensive line for the Houston Texans.
Cincinnati's had 7 offensive plays total in this game for 19 yards.
And that includes a 29-yard run by Green Ellis. Dalton is 1 for 3, -6 yards so far, as this drive begins at the 28 of Cincinnati. And here is Green Ellis, a nice hole for a 1st down. So just like that, Green Ellis bursts up the middle. Shiloh Ko on the stop after a gain of 12.
When we talk about J.J. Watt, it's pretty special. Now, that was a good run right there. And that's what Cincinnati has to get back to. Dalton's best when he gets the complement of the run game.
Fake to Green Ellis, rolling out to Gresham. And Gresham reaching that 6'5" frame across the 40. Daniel Manning there to bring him down.
That was pretty good. He was kind of like tickling the twine there at the end, trying to pick up some extra yards.
All he got him was a gain of 1, but gets to the 41.
You ever do the lawnmower?
or the wheelbarrow.
Right there, the wheelbarrow.
Manning,
right there, the wheelbarrow. Look at him. All right. All that for 1 yard. 2nd and 9.
So another catch by Gresham, but very silent so far has been A.J. Green, number 18. There he is in motion on the bottom of your screen. Not a single catch by Green so far, as Dalton lays it out to Green Ellis, and the Houston Texans defense is there, led by Brady James. -3 on that pass play.
Yeah, Brady James does a phenomenal job of seeing this the whole time. James is right here.
Look at Watt coming up the middle, too.
Watt's flying up the middle. You want that on a screen, but nobody gets a piece of James. He steps inside the attempted block. Watt with the pressure. Brady James with a big tackle.
Look at the passing yards for the Bengals. -17, 3rd and 12. And Reliant Stadium wakes up again. Dalton has time, going way deep down the field, and that ball is picked off. That is Kareem Jackson, intended for Marvin Jones, but he never had a chance as Dalton threw it into double coverage. And Jackson picks it off for the first turnover of the game. All Houston so far. They already lead at 6-0. They'll have the ball again when we come back. The pass was incomplete. It is 4th and 12 now, so the Bengals in a punting situation.
Not sure how much it's going to change field position, to be honest with you.
And a fair catch is called for at the 12-yard line by Keyshawn Martin. Let's take another look at what appeared to be an interception by Kareem Jackson.
Clearly hits him 1 foot, 2 feet down.
Yep. Didn't have possession all the way down to the ground.
Got to have full possession, 2 feet down, make an element of time, which in slow motion is kind of distorted that way. I think it's a good call there. Now, if there's one criticism of Andy Dalton coming off his rookie year, it was his lack of consistency throwing the deep ball. That ball was thrown poorly into double coverage.
So virtually the same field position it'll be for Houston at the 12. Foster gets the carry. Gain of a couple close to the 15-yard line before Carlos Dunlap, who was being worked on the sidelines a moment ago, brings him down.
And here's what we're talking about with Dalton on that throw. Now, he wants Marvin Jones, and I think he just predetermined. They got to go here, but there's double coverage. I think it's KO over top. He tries to split the two. Okay, there's separation there. If you're going to throw that route, it's got to be beyond the wide receiver. It's underthrown by a good 5 to 7 yards. That ball's got to come out earlier if you're going to throw that ball.
2nd and 7. Schaub nothing doing over the middle of the field, so he swings it out to Foster close to the 20-yard line. As Terrence Newman makes the stop after a gain of 4. Well, Dalton did not have a good game last year here at Reliant Stadium, Mike. He was sacked 4 times. He was intercepted 3 times.
You know, Dan, the interceptions don't bother me that much. One of them was that freakish play that changed the game by J.J. Watt at the end of the first half. The other 2 interceptions were Hail Marys in the 4th quarter when the game was out of reach. I was more disappointed in the lack of decisiveness. And again, he's got to rip it and pull the trigger.
Schaub trying to get a first down. Whoa. Ball intercepted. This time stepping right in front is Leon Hall, who is into the end zone for the touchdown.
Wow. That was a great play. He was in man coverage on James Casey, who was coming out of the backfield.
So just when you think Dalton made the huge interception mistake, which was not, Schaub with a poor decision here.
From behind, you can see Casey going to the flat. That's just phenomenal ball skills by Hall, undercutting the route. Look at that. That's beautiful. And comes through.
Another interception for Hall. He had a huge touchdown return against Pittsburgh.
Wow, it's got quiet in here, isn't it, Dan?
Josh Brown to all of a sudden give the Bengals the 7-6 lead. So what a turn of events. Schaub throws the pick. Hall steps into the end zone for the first touchdown of the game. .9:30 left in the half. Bengals with a lead, a tale of 2 seasons for them, just like the Texans, but a flip-flop. First 8 games, 3-5, and the 7-1 run to end it. The numbers really solid. Let's take another look at that pick that Schaub just threw.
Now Casey's going to come flat. Problem here is Schaub cannot make this throw versus man coverage, undercutting the route like that. I give Leon Hall a ton of credit, but this ball can't come out. Look at the coverage right here. It's either got to come out immediately or not at all. Great job jumping the route by Leon Hall. Ball skills, underrated aspect of being a defensive back. There's too many defensive backs in the league that can't catch. Leon Hall, former first-rounder, paying off.
So Hall gives the Bengals a 7-6 lead, fourth straight game with a defensive touchdown. The Bengals on a defensive roll down the regular season. Daniel Manning comes out and gets it to the 20.
Dan, how would you like to dominate a football game, beat the other team up at the line of scrimmage, win every aspect of the game for a quarter and almost a half, and be trailing 7-6? Because that's what just happened on the strength of one play.
It's a kind of frustration that Kubiak and the Texans have been feeling down the stretch of the season. So Schaub will try it again here from the 20. 9:24 left in the opening half. A rematch of last year's wild card between the Bengals and the Texans, which the Texans won last year. And here's Foster. Good pursuit by the Bengals. They drive him out of bounds.
Hey, Dan, remember Domata Peko on the first screen of the game? Check him out again. You want to talk about an instinctive nose tackle. Gets up the field, feels and sees screen, gets off the block of the rookie Brooks, chases him down from behind, and lets his buddies make the play. That's as good as it gets from a nose tackle twice so far in the screen game.
Loss of 4. Peko kind of the unsung hero on that line, with Atkins and Michael Johnson with all the sacks. But Peko's led the line in stops 4 of the last 5 years, and is just a solid team leader. 2nd and 14. Foster looking for the first down, short of it, but a good gain for Arian Foster before he's finally brought down by Nate Clements after a gain of 13.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. This time they double team Peko. They're going to get Peko, but watch the cut in the hole by Foster. Boom, linebacker, make you miss. Maaluga did not even get a hand on him. In flag football, he wins. Forget tackle football. In the flag football league, he wins.
Watching him on tape, Mike, he makes moves that a 6'1", 230-pound back usually can't make. On 3rd and 1, Foster with a first down and more, but that's one of the reasons why the Texans gave him a big contract extension, 40-something million, 5-year extension in March. And he's got the Texans on the move again.
I liked our conversation with Foster yesterday when I asked him in the zone scheme, what's most important? What do you do well that distinguishes you? And he said, first it's about vision, and then it's about patience, because in the zone scheme you've got to wait for that hole to hit, and then you got to hit it hard.
Foster takes a break, and this is Ben Tate for a short gain. Foster, a 3-time Pro Bowler, and an interesting personality. Anybody you talk to that has spent time with Arian Foster mentions that. He'll talk poetry with you, tell you what books he's reading, tell you what he's interested in, politics. Interesting guy. Grew up humble beginnings.
Dan, he had 391 touches this year, which for a running back, you want to talk about some tread on the tires, man, that's a lot of touches.
Andre Johnson in motion at the top. And Schaub looking back the other way. Ball is caught, and another first down. This is Garrett Graham. Gain of 19. Maaluga finally brought him down.
Yeah, they're making a lot of hay on the underneath crossing routes here.
Offside, number 97 on the defense. A penalty is declined. The result of the play is a first down.
On Geno Atkins, but declined, and Houston on the move again, all the way down to the Bengal 39. Maaluga slow in getting up. So we'll take a timeout here and be right back to Reliance Stadium. That line pretty much tells the story. Houston dominant everywhere there except the score, trailing 7-6.
Oh, man, it kind of what we expected. Low scoring, defensive game, not many big plays. Maaluga on the side. They're looking at his left leg.
Dan Skuda, number 51, has come into the game as Maaluga was helped off. First down at 10 now for Schaub. Give to Foster. Gets some more yardage, and he's inside the 25. Nate Clements stopped him, but Foster with a gain of 15.
Dan, we talked about patience in the hole. Watch how patient he is. There doesn't look like there's anything right there. Where is it? Then he hesitates, the cutback, looks for daylight, and then, Dan, as you said earlier, at 230 pounds, he gets vertical north and south.
Brought up in San Diego, California. Free agent signee from Tennessee. Again, everybody passed on him. And here he is, a Pro Bowler in his 4th year with the Houston Texans, as Dan Skuta just came into the game from Maualuga, makes the stop. Foster kind of has that drifting Marcus Allen kind of effortless moves for a big guy.
Marcus Allen, that's kind of interesting. Marcus Allen was like that. Marcus Allen I played against Marcus. I always thought he flowed. He had a beautiful flow to his stride. There goes Maualuga. They're going to go in and take a look at him inside. But I think most importantly, Foster's already got 13 carries in the first half. When they're winning, when they're 11-1, he's touching the ball 25 times.
Foster's got 79 yards already. Ben Tate in the game to give him a spell, and Schaub thought about running, but he dumps it off to Daniels, short of the first down.
Yeah, I think Schaub wanted the double move to Andre Johnson, but it was covered deep. Did a good job just checking it down. Johnson's caught, I believe, one ball, deep curl route. They haven't been able to get the ball down the field. Cincinnati's played a lot of zone, which is why they've thrown the ball underneath.
How about both superstar wide receivers, Andre Johnson and A.J. Green, pretty much non-existent.
It's called respect.
3rd and short, and Foster's got the first down.
It's like a choreographed dance routine when you watch a really good offensive line in a run scheme. There's Burfict limping a little bit. Watch them all, the linemen, they're going to all go 45-degree angles that way. It's choreographed, it's beautiful, and what's even better is you've got a tailback ideally suited for the system. You say Marcus Allen, I say Terrell Davis in his glory days at Denver, matching up that kind of style with the correct scheme.
There's the Houston Texans, very run-oriented, as you can see in the red zone. Again, just a couple of field goals they've had to settle for, so they're trying to get that 6 points. Foster pushed back. Gain of 1.
You can't settle for field goals here, okay? That's what we're talking. This is going to be a low-scoring game. Kubiak knows, how am I down 1 point here? Got to put it in the end zone. And you know, in this situation, Cincinnati's going to probably double number 80, Andre Johnson. No matter where he lines up, and right now, he's in the slot.
Ball just outside the 10 on 2nd and 9. Shot complete. Daniels close to the first down. That'll bring up 3rd down. Reggie Nelson, Dan Skuta in the coverage.
Remember, Scuta's in, the 4th-year player from Grand Valley State from Maualuga. That crossing route has been the majority of yardage in the pass game today. They're not letting them get anything deep. It's been all crossing routes and come up, rally, and tackle.
Mike Zimmer, the highly respected defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals.
I don't know why he's not a head coach in the National Football League. I just don't get it. There's nobody with a better resume. I get tired of people saying I want an offensive guy or a defensive guy. How about just get the right guy?
And how candid was Zimmer talking with us yesterday? He said, yeah, I'm a little frustrated. I haven't gotten a look. I haven't really gotten much attention. He said, I'm not really a self-promoter type of guy, but a defensive coordinator every year in the league since the year 2000. And he just says, I would think that my resume and what the job I've done and the players I've coached would speak for themselves. And it is that time of year where you have coaches and movement and positions available. Andy Reid, hired by the Chiefs after being let go by the Eagles. We got Lovie Smith and company. And here's a look at some other coaches who were let go. So,
you know, I get frustrated when we talk about only the head coaches, because they're the guys making 7 figures. It's the 15 assistant coaches and their families that aren't sure where their kids are going to go to school next year that don't make that kind of money that I worry about.
And also garnering other attention is the offensive coordinator, Jay Gruden, for the Bengals. 3rd down and 2 to the end zone, incomplete. Andre Johnson was the intended receiver for Schaub. It'll bring up 4th and 2 and another field goal attempt likely for Houston.
Watch him get physical with Pac-Man Jones. That's a great job by a 228-pound receiver. I know it wasn't ideally thrown, but I think Andre Johnson catches that 9 out of 10 times. Matt Schaub does too. You don't get opportunities like that in the NFL in a playoff game very often. You got to execute.
And in a microcosm, that is what has plagued the Texans. Penalties, all the things, fundamental drop passes.
Yep.
Even for guys, Pro Bowlers like Andre Johnson, 22-yard field goal attempt, the 3rd of the game for Shane Graham, pulls the Texans ahead again, 9-7. But again, they've had to settle for field goals here in Houston. And there are some of the Pro Bowl selections for the Bengals and the Texans. Houston with a total of 8 headed to Hawaii. Atkins and Green for the Bengals. There's Matt Schaub, Pro Bowler in his own right. But again, Houston settling for 3 field goals, 9-7 lead here. Late in the 2nd quarter as Adam Jones is back deep. And from the goal line he comes out. And Jones up to about the 28, 29-yard line.
Shane Graham on the stop.
Big thing here in Texas. The Hillison Saddle Company there. As 1st and 10 now for the Bengals and Andy Dalton. Some pressure flushed out, and Dalton slides his way to a 1st down as we approach the 2-minute gain of 13. And so maybe the Bengals can get something going here before the half. 2-minute warning in Houston. With 2 minutes left in the opening half. Dalton across the middle, incomplete. And we're in a very similar situation as last year's wild card game. If you remember, it was late in the 1st half. Score was tied at 10, 9-7 here. And this is when J.J. Watt made his national leap onto the stage. And an incredible interception of Dalton just grasped it right out of midair, stuns the Bengals and Dalton. And when we talked to the Texans last night, all of them were saying what a crucial play that was, and the Bengals on the other side of things saying what a crushing blow that was. And J.J. Watt hasn't really stopped since, producing highlights like that. Dalton, who's having a dismal 1st half through the air, finally gets one there to Marvin Jones for the 1st down, and a gain of 11 with 1:51 left.
Yeah, I like the timing of that throw right there by Dalton. I asked Watt on the field before the game about the play last year. He said, Mike, it's just kind of instincts. I just threw my hands up, and the instinct was to catch it. The guy's freakish, that's all I know.
By the way, as Brian Leonard gets his 1st carry of the game, this is the 1st time the Bengals have crossed midfield. But again, still only trail 9-7 because the Texans can't get it in the end zone.
Brian Leonard in the game. He's their 3rd down back. Good pass protection and catches the football well.
2nd and 8. Bengals with all 3 of the timeouts left. That is incomplete. Marvin Jones, the intended receiver. Kareem Jackson on the coverage.
Kareem Jackson was very physical here in press man. Hands on him. You can make an argument it might have been more than 5 yards off the ball. But that's very physical at the point, and he did not have any help over the top.
Jackson, former 1st-round pick out of Alabama. 4 interceptions on the year, led the team. 3rd and 8 now for Dalton.
A.J. Green not involved at all in the first half. Jonathan Joseph, his former teammate, lined up with him.
Amazing that Green has not been a factor. That one intended for Gresham, juggled around, incomplete.
And again, it's Glover Quinn running underneath the route in the dime package, number 29. Former corner, does a nice job undercutting it. The ball's almost intercepted after the tip by Gresham right in Manning's hands. Those are the plays you don't make sometimes.
So just when you think Cincinnati might be able to drive it down to get into field goal range, or in punt formation, 1:17 left. So the Texans will have a chance as Keyshawn Martin calls for the fair catch at the 11-yard line. 1:10 left in the opening half. Houston up 9-7. Beautiful skyline of downtown Houston on an unseasonably chilly day for these parts. Inside Reliance Stadium, Texans clinging to a 9-7. Again, like we said at the top, Mike, low-scoring defensive struggle as Houston is at its own 11 with just over a minute left. Foster with the carry. Be pretty conservative here and going to the locker room ahead by 2.
That's the kind of game it is, and Foster's been dominant so far. The way he cuts, his patience, his vision. I love watching this guy play because he innately understands when and where to move. Watch the cut in the open field against Maluga. Doesn't even touch him. Then a little more circuitous route right here. The cut off the left foot, the right foot up the field. Even though he often cuts left or right, at the end of the day, it's mostly vertical.
Some pretty good company there. Most career yards from scrimmage per game. Active players minimum of 50. Peterson, Johnson, and Rice behind Arian Foster's average of better than 118 a game. Again, he had 153 yards on the ground last year in the win. Went over 100 yards again in the second playoff game, the loss to Baltimore. And he's off on his way to another good game here as Owen Daniels holds on. Terrence Newman on the coverage of Daniels.
And what that did was it guaranteed that Cincinnati couldn't stop the clock and get the football back if Houston wants that to happen.
The Bengals called a timeout to stop the clock just previously. So a 1st and 10 now for the Texans. Ball at the 21. As you look at Marvin Lewis, 79 wins for the Cincinnati Bengals. That is the most in the franchise's history. But again, the Bengals looking for their first playoff win in 22 years, and Lewis looking for his first playoff win in his career. This is another first down, and Andre Johnson, who's been very quiet, has a gain of 11 there. And Schaub with a timeout stops the clock, or does it? Yeah, 47. It ran a couple of ticks there, but Houston with a 9-7 lead. As Matt Schaub and company here trying to, I guess, save the season here, Mike. So many disgruntled fans here in Houston.
Thank you.
So you can really alleviate a lot of fan apprehensiveness with a win here today. Hasn't been pretty. They're only up 9-7, and the inability to get in the end zone a concern, I would say.
Inability for either offense to convert big plays, and I think both defenses are playing off. They're not allowing anything deep, and obviously the only big play of the game, the defense of Cincinnati.
Schaub is flushed out and just throws it away. That'll set up 2nd down. Carlos Dunlap was in there providing the pressure on Schaub.
Now that one interception, they rushed 4, dropped 7. He threw the ball late. Leon Hall, who was playing flat defender in his zone, undercut it, and all of a sudden, Cincinnati Bengals, who couldn't do anything offensively, had 7 points on the board.
Hall with his 3rd interception, and they've all been big this year for Cincinnati. The big one against Pittsburgh, and then the game turner versus Philadelphia the week before. And he's provided the only touchdown of the day.
Good
Foster is nailed.
Perfect.
By your man Montez Perfect.
And now, Perfect wasn't real happy with me prior to the draft either. I was one of the guys that said he was non-draftable.
But you said he was non-draftable, not because of character reasons or anything like that. It is just what you saw on tape of Burfict.
Well, he flashed once or twice a game, made a big play, but for the majority of every game, I thought he was out of shape. I thought he threw himself at the feet of lead blockers. I didn't think he finished plays, and everything he didn't do a year ago, he's doing superbly now. And I give Marvin, Mike Zimmer, and Paul Gunther the credit, along with the kid himself.
And for those of you who don't know what Mike Mayock will be doing following the final gun of this game, he'll be going over the next draft and prospects. And Burfict was one of those guys a few years back that coaches said was a little out of shape as well. And on 3rd and 9, 40 seconds left in the half. Will the Texans have something going here? Wobbly passes complete into Bengals territory to Owen Daniels, and Schaub is hurrying him up to the line of scrimmage after a gain of 19.
He was working on Nate Clements, and Schaub's got to get it up there. Clock it.
Yep, stops it with 24 seconds left. It wasn't pretty, but it's a completion.
Yeah, it was funky. Nate Clements is trailing him. Good move by Daniels. Wide open, ball thrown behind him. Excellent hands catch. How that ball hung up there. Reggie Nelson was anticipating it to be a better thrown ball, so it actually worked against Reggie Nelson that it was poorly thrown.
Daniels, the other option besides Johnson for Schaub. 7 catches, 73 yards for Daniels.
And keep in mind, Chris Crocker, who I think is the best communicator in that secondary, is missing in this game because of the hamstring.
Clements getting to start for him. Schaub's got another completion to Kevin Walter, and it was a solid tackle by Newman.
34-year-old Terrence Newman. I thought he's played extremely well, paired opposite Leon Hall this
Texans
year.
hurry it up. Clock stopped 9 seconds on 3rd and 4.
Going to get some pressure from the left side. Schaub gets rid of the football, and there's the tackle, and he keeps it inbounds. Now let's talk about the situation. Ball's on the 41-yard line, right? Now, the place kicker here, Shane Graham, under 40 yards, he's 20 for 20 this year. Over 40 yards, 11 for 18. You still need to pick some yardage up here to give him a chance and get out of bounds.
Yeah, that 45-yard window and above. Graham not near as accurate as he is from 45 and closer.
Good job.
Ball incomplete, and another solid break up there by Adam Jones.
Yeah, Cincinnati knew that Houston didn't have any timeouts, and the ball had to be thrown at the sideline. Adam Jones jumped the route. Excellent job.
So the ball at the 41 with 4 seconds left. 9-7 lead for Schaub at his first playoff appearance as Dalton and the Bengals step onto the field with just a few ticks left. Big presence as expected by J.J. Watt. But again, on the Bengals side of things, as Dalton will take a knee to end the first half, A.J. Green, their great receiver, not a single reception for Marvin Lewis and the Cincinnati Bengals as they go to the locker room. And a low-scoring game. How about -6 passing yards by the Cincinnati Bengals? Unbelievable that they trail it 9-7 only by 2. As the Bengals are the first team in 6 years with negative passing yards in the first half of a playoff game. Chiefs -8 at the Colts back in 2007.
UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, it's ugly.
Andy Dalton's going to get a chance right away to make some amends here as the kick goes into the end zone. And this time Adam Jones will take a knee, and Dalton will try to get it together on the first series here as we send it down to Alex. Actually, a flag has been thrown. The flag is all the way back at the 40. In the area of the kickoff.
Offside on the kicking team. The 5-yard penalty will be added onto 20. 1st and 10 from the 25.
So now we send it down to Alex.
Thank you, Dan. Well, after a dismal first half offensively, Marvin Lewis telling me that his team has to get something going in the passing game in the second half. Wide receiver A.J. Green not only does not have a completion, but they haven't even really looked at him. Marvin Lewis telling me that they're really working based on coverages, but ironically, Cincinnati thought they had that advantage in that department. Meanwhile, Gary Kubiak happy with what they've done in pass defense, but says his team needs to be aware of the Bengals' run game in the second half. He was not happy with their ability to break off a couple runs in the first half, Dan.
So they're going to re-kick it here. And you mentioned A.J. Green, Alex. They did not even throw to him, a guy that caught 97 balls on the season.
I watched a lot of him off the ball in the first half. They're paying special attention to him. Jonathan Joseph is covering him in certain situations. He's getting help in most situations. But when you've got a playmaker of that ability, you still have to force him the football.
So the ball now placed at the 30 with the offsides penalty. And Andy Dalton, again in his hometown with 65 family, friends, members all watching a dismal, tough first half. But again, the Bengals still in it as Shane Graham kicks it off and Adam Jones takes it out. Spun around just short of the 20 by Brian Brayman. And that is where Dalton will go to work.
Now, they only threw the ball 10 times in the first half. And I think Marvin's got to be in that locker room saying, hey, guys, we played about as badly as we could offensively, and we're down 2. So that's the good news. Let's see what kind of adjustments they make, especially trying to get the football. Jay Gruden's got to get that football out wide to A.J. Green.
They crossed midfield just once to the Houston 47. Jarvis Green-Ellis, who had just 3 carries and 43 yards in the opening half, gets the first call here. J.J. Watt right there.
Over the right tackle. Watch him spin right there with the arm over. You don't teach that. Okay, that's something you can't teach a lineman to do because it's incorrect usually technically to go around the block like that. But because he's so long, that arm over, and then so quick and explosive, he can still make the play.
So fast, so quick. His teammate Jonathan Joseph said they were doing gassers in practice where the defensive backs had a clear 16 seconds. Watt had it 13 seconds. He's so quick and he could swat it away. Dalton running for his life and throws it away. So good pressure again up front by the Texans.
Yeah, that time they brought Brady James. First there's initial pressure here, and then second pressure from the linebacker. He steps up against man coverage. 2 things have to happen, and Houston's going to challenge you in man coverage. Your wide receiver has to win, and Andy Dalton has got to trust what he sees, and he's got to throw the football.
And there you saw Dalton with his hands over his helmet there trying to listen to the plays being called in. That was a problem last year. It was a big concern by the Bengals coaches coming in. All this noise at Reliance Stadium. Dalton on 3rd and 11. Buys some time. Throws it downfield incomplete, and it's knocked away by Brandon Harris. And the Bengals will punt.
Watt almost gets the sack here. Dalton athletic enough. Watt's got a twist about here. Outside the right tackle, Smith. Usually he eats quarterbacks alive there. Dalton gets out. But what an athletic play by Brandon Harris. Makes the play on the football cleanly. And let's give Wade Phillips and this defense a ton of credit because Cincinnati has done squat.
So the Texans with a good chance to have some decent field position, calling for the fair catch. A flag comes in as Keyshawn Martin wasn't given the opportunity at all.
Yeah, Chris Lewis Harris, who was recently activated. Clearly, Keyshawn Martin gives the fair catch.
Boom.
The fair catch signal was late, but you still can't contact him. You're there early either way. And he knew it at the last minute. He tried to pull off.
Interference with the opportunity to make a catch by the kicking team, number 37. 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down.
So the field position for the Texans just got a lot better with 15 added on. Back in a moment, 9-7 Houston. Andy Dalton looking over the Polaroids there, trying to figure something out. Nothing going offensively for Cincinnati, and the Texans have excellent field position at their own 49-yard line, but only lead 9-7 in the opening moments of the third quarter. And this is Foster for a good gain into Bengal territory, close to the 45.
You know, this offensive line has 3 Pro Bowlers up front, and they've done a nice job winning at the line of scrimmage. Pass protection. This is who they are. Play action. Look at that. Beautiful pocket. Schaub steps up and through. Run game. That's a man scheme there, helping their tight end out. Look at Dwayne Brown on perfect. The cut. It's beautiful, but a missed opportunity. Andre Johnson in the red zone's got to catch that football. Why we have such a tight game.
On 2nd and 5, Foster spins, does a pirouette, and looks for the first down marker. He's short of it by about 1.5 yards. Michael Johnson on the stop up front for the Bengals.
Boy, Geno Atkins is just so strong. It's unbelievable. Watch him take number 60, the rookie guard, Ben Jones, jack him right into the back. He gets held. It wasn't called. Really good cut, making Leon Hall missing the hole, but wow. That guy is so strong. I was talking to Andrew Whitworth, and he said on Mondays he's in there benching 500 or 600 pounds, and Whitworth can't even look at the weights.
He says his grandmother fed him porridge. That's why he's so strong as a baby. Schaub looking deep on 3rd and 2. A flag is thrown at the 30. Andre Johnson.
The flag, I think, is Manny Lawson on one of the tight ends in the middle of the field. I don't think it had anything to do with where the ball was thrown.
Defense, 5-yard penalty.
Yep, you're right. Lawson.
Manny Lawson's the Sam linebacker. He's lined up on the tight end. That time was Garrett Graham, I believe. It's a tight end. The tight end right there on the hold. That's Lawson on Graham. Good coverage by Leon Hall.
So a first down with a penalty on the 3rd and 2 incompletion. And so the Texan drive alive at the Bengal 38. Fake to Foster. Schaub goes to Foster. And he's got another first down. Gain of 11.
They were looking for a vertical off this play action. And again, Cincinnati had it covered deep. And I like what Matt Schaub did. He did not force it. When they go heavy play action, he's looking deep. He's reading high to low, deep to short. Didn't have the deep route. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that check down to Arian Foster for another first down. Really good job. Matt Schaub's made one mistake, Dan, but it was a big one.
Tate's in the backfield now. The fake to Tate. And this ball is caught by Andre Johnson. All the way down deep inside Bengal territory. Gain of 21. Adam Jones brought him down.
They're going to play action this way and then look at the seam backside. This is a staple of their offense. The play action. Now Adam Jones on the double move gets beat. The ball's thrown on time. Great route by Johnson. That's a 228-pound thoroughbred making a play.
1st and goal. Houston has yet to score a touchdown. Look at the dismal offense in the last 3 games for the Texans.
And they got to finish.
So-called 3 field goals they've settled for so far. That'll bring up 2nd and goal as Foster's inside the 2.
And Dan, this is where they have to finish. You're just talking about settling for field goals. I think if I'm Gary Kubiak and Rick Dennison, Daniels looks like he might be hurt there. I think I want to run this. I want to establish some physicality here and run this football into the end zone.
Daniels, the leading receiver, 73 yards and catches. We'll be right back. Owen Daniels, wide receiver for Houston, shaken up on the sidelines as the ball is down at the 1 for Houston on 2nd and goal. Trying to get into the end zone for the first time. And Foster gets it done. Touchdown, Houston, finally. And that takes Foster to the cusp of another 100-yard playoff game with 99 yards.
Watch Wade Smith. First block, second level on the linebacker. That's beautiful. One of 3 offensive linemen that have earned Pro Bowl bids this year for Houston.
Kubiak and company say they've been trying to find that right combo on the right side. Shuffling players in and out a bit. Graham on to tack on the extra point. And Houston with a little bit of cushion. 16-7 as Arian Foster takes it in for the Texans. Okay, so big news from up there at frigid Green Bay in the rematch of the Vikings and the Packers to wrap up our Saturday wild card. As the kickoff is taken out to the 20-yard line, and that's where the Bengals will start. Andy Dalton and the Bengals begin from the 20. Nothing going so far. Through the air and not much on the ground either. This one works. Pass complete. The first of the game to A.J. Green comes with 10:20 left in the third quarter.
And that's an excellent placement of the football by Dalton. Jonathan Joseph has been on him all day. There's a big height advantage here. Look where the football was put. I watched this kid practice the other day, Wednesday in Cincinnati. He practices as hard as any player I've ever seen. And that kind of catch is no big deal to the rest of his players.
But Green, like much of the Cincinnati offense, has been kept under wraps for most of the late season. That's the pass complete to Andrew Hawkins, who's just 5'7". You got Green, who's 6'4", and Andrew Hawkins is 5'7", yet he had over 50 catches this year. It's so rare for a guy that small to have that many catches. In fact, only one other wide receiver, 5'7", has had 50-plus catches in an NFL season. That was Richard Johnson for the Lions back in '89. So Hawkins picks up the first down, and Dalton goes to work through the air again. Deep downfield, and this one's complete. And Green has it. All of a sudden, he's in the offensive playbook again.
Yeah, and that was man-to-man. Jonathan Joseph, the former Cincinnati Bengal. Great pass protection. There's a twist up front. Beautiful pocket. He cleanly beats Joseph off the edge and makes the catch right there.
Gain of 45.
If you're not, he stacks them. That was a beautifully thrown ball. Boy, I love that throw.
And good news for the Cincinnati offense, Mike, who has not been able to get it downfield for long gains. All of a sudden, Green again here from the near side, and Jonathan Joseph, the former Bengal, who did not play with the Bengals when A.J. Green was there. They just missed each other as Joseph left here to come to Houston, where he's been a Pro Bowler 2 straight years. But this is a matchup we anticipated.
And Alex made the report at half. 0 receptions, 0 targets. You've got to get this guy involved in your offense, and now in the red zone, you're going to see Houston double team him.
2nd and 4. As the Bengals have entered the red zone. Dalton with a pump fake, going up top, looking for Green again, and Joseph was there.
We spoke to Jay Gruden last night, and one of his pet peeves with Andy Dalton is keeping the ball in the ballpark. If you get a one-on-one with that 6'4" receiver against Jonathan Joseph with a decided height advantage, don't throw it out of the end zone, even if it looks like he's covered. Give him a chance to go up and get it.
Big play here for Dalton. 3rd and 4. Trying to keep this drive alive for a potential touchdown.
Got a tight bunch set and alert Gresham on the backside. Here's Gresham, and then you're going to see a bunch of picks right in here.
Dalton has it knocked out of his arms. Connor Barwin was right there on Dalton. 4th and 4 and an incomplete pass.
It's Andrew Whitworth, the left tackle, working with Barwin. Nice job right there with the reach, stripping the football.
And that'll bring out the field goal unit and Josh Brown. who's had a sensational year in for the injured Mike Nugent. And what do we have here? We got a challenge.
Kubiak obviously believes the arm was not coming forward.
Houston is challenging the ruling on the field of an incomplete pass. Timeout.
All right, so we'll get the final result on that when we come back to Houston. Texans coach Gary Kubiak has challenged the call on the field, which is an incomplete pass. Another look.
Yeah, this is hand strength by Dalton. If it comes out right there, it's a fumble. But because he was able to hold on to the football and the ball came loose during a forward motion.
The ruling on the field is confirmed.
It's
the
obvious.
passer gets hit in the hand, but never loses control as his arm is coming forward. Therefore, it's an incomplete pass. It will be 4th down. Houston will be charged with a timeout, and that's also the first challenge.
So that was some sheer hand strength there by Dalton to keep the momentum going with a football in his hand.
Yeah, if that ball comes out right there, it's a fumble. But he holds onto the football, and now it's a forward motion when it comes out. It's an incomplete pass. Well done on the field.
So Josh Brown in to attempt the field goal. Filled in nicely for Mike Nugent. Lost earlier in the season with a calf injury. And Brown has been just about perfect. And he knocks this one through from 34 yards to pull the Bengals closer, 16-10. 7:48 left in the third. Dalton and Green coming into the league, same year, both second-year guys, and it has been one prolific combination as you look at what they've done the first 2 seasons. More than 2,200 yards, both all-time records for teammates there. And then the first 2 seasons, the Dalton to Green combination only eclipsed by the great Marino to Clayton combination over the first 2 seasons. And so young quarterback and wide receiver, it seemingly is a very bright future in that department for Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I really believe they have to target him. You can't just say, okay, Jonathan Joseph has him and we're not going there. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 57 yards, net result a field goal. He was fun to talk to last night, Dan, because a year ago I had met with him before this game, and he was a rookie and he kind of had his eyes down and hesitant. Last night he was great. He looked us in the eye, told us what he thought about his game, where he could improve. I thought it was kind of cool to see this kid growing up in front of us.
So Josh Brown just made the field goal, backs up Daniel Manning, and that'll come out to the 20 for the Texans next possession, leading at 16-10. Here is Foster, and that's going to put him over 100 yards again for the 3rd straight playoff game. First player in NFL history, in fact, with 100+ rushing yards in first 3 postseason games.
That's pretty good, man. And we said at the top of the show, the key to this game was whether or not they could establish him in the run game. And if they could, Matt Schaub would stay in rhythm, and it would give them an advantage in winning the game.
Well, it was funny talking to Foster yesterday. He says it's amazing what expectations can do to a city and a team. They were 10-6. It was their first venture into the playoffs last year as Foster gets the call again. He goes, this year we're 12-4. We post the best record in the young franchise's history. It's been around for 10 years now. And he goes, it's like we're bums. We were treated like rock stars last year. But that's the way it went for Houston down the stretch of the season.
Yeah, you know, when you're 11-1 and you finish 1-3, all of a sudden the fan base has a level of expectations, and it's completely different than it was a year ago.
2 opportunities to post a first-round bye. Instead, losses for Houston. So here they are for the 2nd straight year against the Bengals, and it's Foster out of the backfield for another reception. That one good for 12. Maualuga on the coverage, who was shaken up earlier, back out there for Cincinnati.
You know, he's been a little bit exposed. Here it is, man-to-man right here. Maualuga a little bit exposed in man coverage. Gets picked. Foster takes advantage of that moving pick, and it's a first down.
That's the 7th catch for Foster, as Ben Tate gives him a rest. 1st and 10, ball just across the 40. Play action. Dunlap chasing Schaub, who just throws it out of bounds.
You know, I look at these two franchises, and I think there's a lesson to be learned as we watch 7 coaches get fired and 5 general managers. And I thought Bob McNair and Rick Smith have done a great job stabilizing this franchise. A lot of people thought Kubiak would be fired several years ago. That didn't happen, nor should it have. And then Rick Smith comes in, and in 2011, who did he get in the draft? He got Watt, Reed. He signed Daniel Manning and Jonathan Joseph. I mean, this franchise is ascending, and I think they were patient with their GM and head coach.
They're responsible for bringing the NFL back to Houston after the then Oilers left. And that is Owen Daniels, who's back out there in action after being shaken up earlier with his 8th catch of the game. Leon Hall, who had the interception return for a touchdown of the coverage.
You know, in 2009, Rick Smith drafted Cushing, Connor Barwin, Glover Quinn. They signed Arian Foster as a college free agent out of that draft class, and then signed Antonio Smith and Sean Cody as unrestricted free agents. So when you start talking about compiling talent, Rick Smith's done a great job and really got this franchise going in the right direction.
The Texans going in the right direction. Ball just short of the 48. 3rd and 3. After the gain of 7 by Daniels, and Foster avoids a defender, spins his way to midfield short of the first down. Nate Clements, who again is in that starting role for Chris Crocker, on the stop.
Yeah, they're going to try and come down and then pull the tackle around, but Leon Hall comes quickly. Newton gets a piece. Very rarely does he get brought down in the open field on a one-on-one tackle. Give Nate Clements a ton of credit.
4th down. Crowd wants Houston to go for it, just about a yard, maybe a little less for the first down.
I mean, when your defense is playing this well, I think you just punt the football and say, Wade, you need to take care of this.
Adam Jones, the earlier return man for the Bengals, but this is Brandon Tate, who fumbles it at the 12 and is able to recover it at the 10.
Wow. That was like a knuckleball in the air, but a really poor job by Brandon Tate.
Maybe we'll see Adam Jones back out there after that. Bengals lucky to hold on.
J.J. Watt dominant once again today. All phases of the game. Run game, pass game. Watch him shock the tight end, Orson Charles. Vision on the mesh point. Slides down, makes the tackle. Crosses the face of the center, runs through it, gets the sack, and finally, arm over, flattens down the line of scrimmage. He's as active as can be and as advertised.
Bengals begin at their own 11. This is Green Ellis with a carry. The first 5 possessions, Cincinnati's offense, no points, just 52 yards. That last possession where they're able to get a field goal, 64 yards. So we'll see if they can continue the momentum after J.J. Watt and company just shut them down for most of the first half.
Yeah, I was talking with him on the field before the game, and I asked him, when you're rushing the quarterback, what do you look at? He said, Mike, my eyes are on the quarterback the entire time, because if I can't get home, I want to knock the ball down.
His motor never stops. 2nd and 5.
There it is.
Pass batted down at the line. Is that Watt?
That's exactly what we just talked about. He's saying, don't do that.
That's one of the signature moves that Watt has made famous. No one's done it better in the history of the game.
Watch his eyes on the quarterback. He doesn't continue to grout with the offensive lineman. Eyes on the quarterback. When he knows he's not going to get home, he's looking, he sees.
He hides.
Absolutely. His eyes are always where, and then he goes,
Not over me, not over 99.
Not in my house, dude.
Had 17 passes defensed, and he ups the number here in the postseason. An amazing line of statistics, and that's a big part of it. 6'5", able to jump and time it. 3rd and 5, Dalton over the middle.
Flag down.
Flag is down.
They're making it difficult on Dalton. Playing tough man-to-man and pressuring the quarterback.
Number 38 of the defense was lined up in the neutral zone The 5-yard penalty will result in a first down.
Oh, big penalty. Daniel Manning, defensive coordinator for the Texans. Wade Phillips obviously not happy with Manning's penalty.
There he is, and it's a good call, and that's like a turnover. It would have been a punt on the incomplete pass. That's a turnover. They've got the football back, 1st and 10.
21-yard line. Huge penalty there by the Texans. The most penalized team in the NFL, by the way, the last 6 games of the season. As Green Ellis is brought down by, guess who, J.J. Watt.
You know,
let's go down to Alex.
Well, Dan, J.J. Watt just kind of getting used to his notoriety. He was genuinely surprised earlier this season when he made the cover of SI. And that same week, he was at a Justin Bieber concert, came out and the girls were screaming. He assumed they were screaming for Justin Bieber. Was surprised to find out they were screaming J.J. Watt. He's a star in this town.
Huge celebrity, and the rest of the world and league just getting to know him. That ball is taken by Jonathan Joseph. Intended for A.J. Green, and Dalton with a big turnover.
And you know what? Really good pass protection on an overload blitz from Dalton's left side. They're all coming from Dalton's left over here. They do a nice job. I don't know why A.J. Green's not looking. He's got to be aware. A.J. Green's got to see this football. The ball was on top of him because Dalton anticipated blitz and had to come out, but Green's got to see it.
The veteran Joseph, the former Bengal, steps in front and comes up with a big turnover, and that sets up the Texans all the way down to the Bengal 26, leading 16-10 with just over 3 minutes left in the third. Foster, nothing going left side, and a loss all the way back to the 30. Wallace Gilberry among the Bengals to drop him for a loss of 4.
Now, if you're Houston, if you're Gary Kubiak, this is where you want to shut the door, right here. You're at home, the crowd's with you, you've made a big play on defense, you've got the football on the 30-yard line, and on first down you lose 4 in the run game. You've got to convert here.
Second straight year that the Texans have limped into the playoffs. 3 straight losses, remember, last year before they beat the Bengals. And again, losing 3 out of the 4 down the stretch here this time around. So there was not much confidence in the Texan fans for Houston's prospects against a red-hot Bengal team, but that one complete to Johnson as we get down to 2 minutes left, a gain of 10.
6-point differential. In this particular instance, a field goal is good. Turns it into a 2-possession ball game.
3rd and 4. And time for the Bengal defense to dig in here. Trying to force the Texans for a field goal attempt.
It's Maluga man-to-man up top.
Shot complete. Daniels again having a big game. Gain of 11. 1st and 10.
This is Nate Clemens. Remember, he's playing safety today for the injured Crocker. From the left side of the screen, Daniels, a tight end, does a nice job coming underneath Clemens. Right there, little shimmy, come under. You can't get beat under like that.
Clemens is down, ball's just inside the 10. 1st and goal it'll be for Houston when we come back. Injured player, in fact, as we went to break, was Adam Jones being attended to.
That affects their nickel package. They're in base right now, but whenever they go nickel, if he can't come back in, because typically he comes outside and they kick Leon Hall inside.
So 1st and goal. Ball at the 9-yard line of Cincinnati. Houston up 16-10. Foster set up behind Schaub, grabs it inside the 5. Just kind of snakes his way through there down inside the 4. Flag comes in.
Holding number 79, offense. 10-yard penalty, still first down.
So that comes back. Brandon Brooks, the rookie out of Miami.
I was introduced to him at the East-West game last year. I thought he was one of the most promising young linemen at that game. Massive, 340 pounds, really good feet for a guy that size. And if you play in his own scheme, you have to have good feet. But again, situation where you're dominating a football game, you're only up 6, and in the red zone, big holding penalty.
Talked about the penalties and how they have hurt Houston. Most penalized team over the final 6 games. Nearly 9 penalties they averaged coming down the stretch. As the ball is backed up all the way to the 18-yard line where it's 1st and goal. Daniels in motion. Shot pulls the trigger. Incomplete. Intended for Walter. And that was Newman on the coverage.
34-year-old Terrence Newman did a nice job. There was some pushing there as Walter was trying to run a slant. Remember, you want to take away the inside move. Hands are all over him. I don't have a problem with that as a former defensive back.
I bet.
Newman. Let's let him play. I like it.
Newman missed last week with a groin injury. Former Cowboy. Went to a couple of Pro Bowls. Has some good postseason experience. On 2nd and goal, Schaub out of the shotgun. And this is Foster drifting to the left side. Down to the 11-yard line. Maualuga there to meet him after a gain of 7. But still, the Bengals looking to get out of this with just a field goal attempt on 3rd and goal.
You see Gary Kubiak, you might say, playing it conservatively. I would say he's playing it intelligently. Worst case scenario, he wants a field goal, 9-point differential, and trust his defense.
And that is going to bring us to the end of quarter number 3. Houston 16, Bengals 10. NBC's NFL Wildcard Playoff continues right after these messages. Earl Campbell, the great Houston Oiler, Heisman Trophy winner from Texas, introduced to the crowd as the honorary game captain. Earl, a legend from the Love You Blue Oiler days. Good to see Earl doing better. He was confined to a wheelchair for a number of years. Has had multiple spinal surgeries, and good to see Earl Campbell back getting around. Schaub down to the 6-yard line to Arian Foster on 3rd and goal, but that'll bring up 4th and goal, and another field goal attempt here by the Texans.
Little arrow route by Foster that time. And again, I don't have a problem with what might some call a conservative approach here in the red zone. After they got the holding penalty, they got the ball back down to the 6-yard line for a chip shot field goal. 9-point differential in a game like this means a lot.
So Graham on to attempt a 24-yard field goal. 3 for 3 so far. And he adds another 3 points for the Houston Texans, who up the lead to 19-10. So even though the Bengals trail at 19-10, still in the area as we look at the pulse and some of the plays that have kind of dictated the tempo and rhythm of this game. J.J. Watt, his usual presence. Leon Hall with a big pick 6, 21 yards out. Schaub threw it, stepped in front of him, and then Arian Foster capped off a good drive. He's over 100 yards again in the playoffs. So based on what you've seen so far, this is pretty much what Houston had to do to kind of get back on track. A little Foster, a little passing.
Yeah, I think we talked about this all week, and first and foremost for me is defensively. I think Wade Phillips' guys have completely shut down Cincinnati. Secondly, Arian Foster, 34 touches. That's back to Houston football. So they're running the football effectively, play action, keeping Schaub in his comfort level, and then that guy right there, J.J. Watt, has dominated the line of scrimmage.
Schaub at his first postseason action. Again, T.J. Yates had the controls last year for Houston. And they beat the Cincinnati team, went on to lose to Baltimore.
Yep.
And if Houston can hang on to the win here, they will play at New England, which really beat the Texans pretty good, 42-14 less than a month ago. But again, we've got a whole quarter left here and just a 9-point lead as Brandon Tate with a good return for the Bengals. So Cincinnati set up pretty nicely on a good return by Brandon Tate. Dalton goes to work right to the air, complete to Jermaine Gresham.
You know, Dan, talking about the game tonight, it's kind of interesting with Ponder out. I look at that as a kind of good news, bad news. The bad news is obviously your starting quarterback is out of the game. I think the good news for Minnesota is their backup quarterback, Joe Webb, is a completely different type of quarterback. He's got great ability to escape. He can run with the football. We'll talk about it in a minute.
At the 45 after the gain of 6, 2nd and 4 for Dalton. Again, having a hard time hearing with this Reliance Stadium crowd waking up. Green Ellis has the first down, and he's into Texan territory to the 48.
You know, from my perspective, if you're Tom Capers in Green Bay, and you've worked all week anticipating Ponder, maybe getting Webb, now you get a completely different snapshot. Joe Webb on a Sunday night game a couple years ago in December against Philadelphia. Snowstorm gets postponed till Tuesday evening, and Joe Webb wins the football game, mostly because he's so athletic. I'd be very concerned if I was Green Bay because of that athletic ability.
Once again, Dalton trying to make sure his offensive players know what's going to be run here out of the gun. Dalton fires incomplete, intended for Green. It was really nailed there by Joseph.
Yeah, they're playing two high safeties here now with what's going on underneath. There it goes, drives on it. Nice job by Jonathan Joseph. But with two high safeties, they're basically saying you're not going to throw the ball over top of us. We got a 2-possession lead.
Over to Hawkins and a little 5'7" wide receiver trying to get his way up to the 40, and Hawkins mixing it up there.
He's a space player. He's one of those guys where you try to take advantage of his lateral quickness. Reverses, toss sweeps, quick bubble screens, tunnel screens. Get the football in his hands and let people miss.
Again, just 5'7" in between jobs. He was a caddy at Inverness Golf Club in Toledo, that celebrated golf course. But you do everything you can in between to try to keep your NFL dream alive. And here he is, part of the Cincinnati Bengals team trying to rally against the Texans. 0 for 6 on 3rd downs. This 3rd and 2, the toss to Green Ellis. Looking for it, and he's going to be short.
Yeah, Kareem Jackson did a nice job coming up on the corner and forcing that play back inside. Watch what happens with the crack, and then the tackle Whitworth from behind. There's the submarine by Kareem Jackson. If this is made, if they get the first down here, this is all because of the law firm.
Ben, Jarvis, Green, Ellis. Apparently,
LTD.
Seemed like it was short, but they're going to come out and measure. Pretty good road record for the Cincinnati Bengals. 6-2 on the road this year. Again, indeed short.
Now let's see what they're going to do here, Dan.
Yep, 11:36 left, trailing by 9. Outside of field goal range.
Yeah,
you agree with this?
You're in no man's land here. Punt doesn't do you any good. Too far for a field goal. I agree. They've got their heavy package in the game. Dennis Rowland, the backup tackle. Fullback in the game, John Connor, cut by the New York Jets recently.
Green Ellis knifes in, looked like his forward momentum got him the first down. Big play for Cincinnati to keep this drive alive with just over 11 minutes left. Brady James came in there, but it was too late.
Here comes Brady James, 53. The fullback Connor gets a good job, good block on the other linebacker that time, Barrett Rude. Just enough for the first.
Green Ellis, again back in action this week, has 60 yards on 9 carries. Former New England Patriot who started in the Super Bowl for the Patriots. Now playing for Marvin Lewis in his first year in Cincinnati. The fake to Green Ellis, and Dalton going deep down the field to Green. Incomplete. Joseph was there. Kareem Jackson was there as well.
And I'll tell you what, Kareem Jackson coming in late is the one that I think helped get rid of the football. Joseph gets beat. Right there, he's beat. The ball's thrown, but it's held up. And at the very end, you see Kareem Jackson come in. 25. Look at that leaping ability. Ball's already out. My bad. Jonathan Joseph did a great job.
Yeah, he saved a touchdown with that last second bat on Green.
And that ball was underthrown again.
2nd and 10. Pump fake by Dalton. Now he's running. And gets it up to the 37-yard line. Brooks Reed, who returned to practice on Tuesday and missed last week's game with a groin, also missed 3 games late in the season. Was able to help out.
Dan, we talked all week about this guy's got to rip it when it's there. Now watch what happens right here in the middle of the field. Right there, wide open. Nobody's around him. He looked right at him and pulled the football down again. Andy's got to rip that football when he has it.
The gain of just 1, 3rd and 9. And Green is back out there. Dalton looks his way, fires, complete to Green, short of the first down. At about the 30, Joseph and Green have been locked up in a battle all day.
Yeah, and Jonathan Joseph does as good a job as any corner in the league in driving on the slant route. He typically will play inside to try and take away the slant. Look at him drive on it. The ball's just thrown perfectly, and another hands catch by A.J. Green. But
so on comes the field goal unit for Cincinnati, and Josh Brown spotted at the 37, so it'll be a 47-yard attempt. He's got a very strong leg, Josh Brown does. And that one is hammered right through to bring Cincinnati a little closer, within 6. 9:03 left in Houston. Texans 19, Bengals 13. .903 left in the 4th, 19-13. Texans over the Bengals, trying to make it 2 straight over Cincinnati in the wild card Saturday, which opens the NFL postseason. And Gary Kubiak trying to get his club another chance at New England. Daniel Manning is going to down it deep in his end zone, and Matt Schaub and the Texans will come out to the 20. Houston trying to move on, the AFC wildcard playoff. Texans start out at the 20, up 19-13. Play action by Schaub, and looking to the near side, he's got James Casey. And Casey with good yardage, brought down by Mauluga after a gain of 21. First catch by Casey's a big one.
Yeah, Manny Lawson completely sells out. Watch Lawson thinking it's run. He's going to come up and sell out right there. Oh, he's on the ground, so there's nobody to cover Casey. So he tries to sell out on the run game, not realizing Casey was sliding out to the flat.
Good gain up to the 40 by Casey, who had 34 catches in the regular season, along with 3 touchdowns, his first of the game. And now Foster looking for some daylight along the left side.
You know, Owen Daniels has 9 catches today, and a lot of it has been versus man-to-man on crossing routes. And they've done a real nice job. First the run game, and now Owen Daniels working across Mauluga's face. Big play. Again, this time Garrett Graham, another tight end, working across Mauluga's face. Time after time, we've seen the tight ends on crossing routes wide open.
It's through the air and then on the ground. Foster's been paving the way, 118 yards to Foster. Here he comes this way. Looking for the first down marker. He'll be short of it as he had to get up to the midfield stripe. But he's got 34 yards receiving as well, so he's over 150 total yards.
He's getting close to 40 touches today. When you talk about carries and receptions, got about 28 carries, another 8 or 9 catches. He's going to be sore tonight.
3rd and 2.
There's some confusion because Foster was split out.
Shot goes to the far side. Good throw. Hauled in by DeVere Posey. A flag comes in. As Posey, when we watched it practice, we thought was going to be a little more involved in the Texan offense. A gain of 18 for Posey, but again, a flag is down.
Pass interference, number 11 on the offense.
Yep. It's
10-yard penalty.
Posey.
Still 3rd down.
Very physical rookie 3rd-round pick from Ohio State. Top of the screen. Works up the field. Look at the right arm push off. Just a little push off to come back to the football. They like him. Didn't play much football at Ohio State because was suspended for a period of time in his last season.
Yeah, he was involved in that tattoo scandal at Ohio State. Players accepting some cash, and coaching staff said, yeah, he basically missed all of his senior season. Just a couple of games with the suspensions that were levied against him and the Buckeyes. 3rd and 12. And Schaub out to Walter. And Walter's dragged out of bounds by Nate Clements. Short of the first down, I believe.
Nice job. You see double A gap right there. Both linebackers in the A gap, which is between the center and the guard. One of the linebackers comes. Arian Foster picks him up. Schaub has barely been touched tonight. Good throw and catch. Fans don't like the mark.
4th and 1. Texans are going to come in and punt.
Fans don't like the mark, and they don't like the fact that they're not going for it again.
And Brandon Tate is back there after a previous juggle with a reception. Flag comes in.
Taylor Mays ran on the field at the very last
Delay
second.
game, offense, 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
It backs the Texans up even more. A little better field position for Tate. Again, we talked about the penalties being a problem, especially in the last 6 games. First 10 games, a lot cleaner. Most in the NFL down the stretch for Kubiak.
I'm with you. The penalties in the red zone. I mean, they're 1 for 4 in red zone today. So if Houston finds a way to lose this football game, it's going to be an implosion.
But I just don't know if the city of Houston could take it at this stage. I mean, they're already so on edge as Brandon Tate returns it to the 20-yard line. They celebrated the anniversary of the big Bills comeback on the Oilers in the playoffs all those years ago. Not again, says the Texan fans. Look at the numbers for Andy Dalton compared to last year's wild card game loss to this Texan team. Today 11 of 25, 88 yards for 1 pick. And now a key drive for Cincinnati beginning at its own 20, 6:15 left, trailing by 6. Dalton quickly to the air to his man A.J. Green's got a first down and more. All the way up to the 35-yard line before Brandon Harris takes him down after a gain of 16.
Jonathan Joseph, who has done such a nice job all game long, misses the tackle, goes to the upfield shoulder. A.J. Green makes a nice move. You got to keep feeding 18. And by the way, where's the tight end, Jermaine Gresham? 2 catches for 7 yards. Second best receiver on this team's got to get involved.
Green didn't have a single catch through the first half. He's got 5 catches for 80 yards, all in this second half. Green Ellis on the ground gets it up to the 40-yard line. And that'll bring up 2nd down.
Good double team on J.J. Watt, whose name we haven't mentioned as much in the second half. Watt right here, double team. in my opinion, if you don't double team him every snap in some way, shape, or form, you're asking for trouble.
Approaching the 5-minute mark for the Bengals, who never won a playoff game on the road and haven't won a playoff game period in 22 years. Dalton chased down from behind by Brooks Reed. Again, just back in practice this Tuesday, missed the game last week and comes up with a big play on Dalton.
He's relentless. Watched him play on tape in college. Second-round pick, Brooks Reed. I thought Dalton was going to take a shot. Look at that. The ball almost comes loose. I thought he had A.J. Green in the hole between the corner and safety on 2 deep coverage.
Second-round pick out of Arizona, Brooks Reed, brings up 3rd and 6.
I don't know if you want to burn a timeout there.
Yeah, they burn a timeout with 4:17 left. Big play for the Bengals coming up when we come back. Mike, you've been to a lot of NFL venues around the league. This is one of the loudest.
And this might be the loudest snap of the game right here.
Huge play, 3rd and 6, 4:17 left. Andy Dalton from the 40. Texans come up on the line, flags fly in, stop the play.
Yeah, the right side of the line. I think it was the rookie first-round pick, Zeitler.
False start, number 68 offense. 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
Yeah, Houston showed a lot of activity late at the line of scrimmage, sneaking people up here, and then the right guard, right here. See them sneaking up Daniel Manning right over top of him. He steps back. Easy call.
Zeitler, the rookie out of Wisconsin, who was teammates with J.J. Watt there. And now it's 3rd and 11, and Dalton, who's been having a hard time hearing all game. Down the middle, incomplete. It'll bring up 4th down.
No. They're going to get Shiloh KO for defensive pass interference.
What a crucial penalty if that's the call indeed.
And I think it is the right call. I think KO went after the guy instead of the ball.
Pass interference, number 31 in the defense. The ball will be placed in the spot of the foul. Automatic 1st down.
Wow.
KO's a second-year player out of Idaho. And he's got to play the football here. Don't play the man, play the football. He's got a chance to make a play, and he tackles. That's just a safety who's starting because they were upset with Quentin Demps. That's a safety who didn't have the confidence to make a play on the ball.
On 3rd and 11, the huge penalty. 1st and 10 now from the 50. Midfield, Bengals trying to come back with 4:12 left. Dalton with a little play fake, and he's complete to Marvin Jones, the rookie out of Cal. Kareem Jackson on the coverage. Jones catch good for 15.
Watch the pass protection over here as they bring pressure, play action. I like Dalton right here. Plants the foot in the ground, throws it right on top of Marvin Jones. Kareem Jackson on the back shoulder. That's a heck of a job by Dalton and the rookie, Marvin Jones.
Just the 2nd catch for Jones, but it is a big one. Down to the Texan 35. Green Ellis caught in the backfield and hauled down by Earl Mitchell, Houston native, who rotates in there at the nose tackle position.
Nice play by Mitchell. He beat the center, Kyle Cook, cleanly for a negative play.
Mitchell had a sack last year versus Cincinnati in this wild card game. Big play there. 2nd and 11 for Lewis, trying to get that elusive first playoff win in his career. Dalton over the middle, incomplete to Gresham.
Dan, you heard me talk all week about Glover Quinn and how I think he's underappreciated around the league. He's been man-to-man on Gresham all day. Earlier on, I said, where's Jermaine Gresham? And the answer is Glover Quinn's winning that battle all night long.
No one has higher praise for Glover Quinn than his teammate Jonathan Joseph, the veteran. who says he's a born leader. He's like a Boys and Girls Club director. Gets everybody organized into game preparation. And that was a big play. Now 3rd and 11 for Cincinnati. Here comes the rush. Dalton steps up, going deep downfield, just out of reach of Green. 4th down with 2:51 left.
And Danielle Manning, to me, was late. The safety getting over to help. He's going to take it outside, back in. He caught him flat-footed. He's open. Danielle Manning's late. I know it's a tight window, but that's a throw you got to make.
And you got to go for it here, right?
Yeah, I think that unfortunately at this point the field goal from 36 is what? 44, 54,
53-yarder.
and you might not get the ball back. So
yep,
they're going to go for it.
Down by 6, needing a big play here. Quick release to Jones, trying to get loose, but he's going to be short, and Cincinnati's going to turn it over to Houston.
Well, they got immediate pressure up the middle. I think it was Watt. Forced the ball out quickly. Here comes Watt on a twist stunt. Forces the ball out to Marvin Jones. Now you got to rally up and tackle. They're playing zone coverage. That's the dime defender right there that made the initial move on it, Brandon Harris.
So if the Texans can sustain a drive here, they can move on to the next round of the playoffs, up 19-13, 2:44 to go from their own 28. Foster gets the call across the 30, 32, gain of about 4.
29th carry of the day for him. And let's not forget, Dan, the Bengals had to burn a timeout earlier because they couldn't hear the signals come into the game. So they only have 2 at this point left.
And again, the Bengals looking for that playoff win that has been some 22 years ago. Their last one coming against the then Houston Oilers. And just a huge game for the Houston Texans with everything that happened. 11-1 to start the season, losing 3 out of the last 4. They had 2 great opportunities down the stretch to wrap up home field throughout the playoffs and the first round bye. Here they are on the wild card. Close, but not done yet.
Well, I love these 2 defenses. Mike Zimmer's Cincinnati Bengals have played their tails off. Wade Phillips' group has played even better. And let's face it, I think Jonathan Joseph, who's been paired all day long on A.J. Green, shut him out in the first half. Green's done some damage in the second half, but boy, this has been a fun defensive battle to watch.
And 6 field goals made in the game, 4 by Houston by Graham. And Foster short of the first down. That'll bring up 3rd down.
Final timeout.
Burned by the Bengals with 2.5 left.
Big play right here. 3rd and about a yard. Foster, 30 carries for $128. Another 8 catches, 38 touches.
You mentioned Marvin Lewis and the 79 wins, the most in team history. You know, there's been only one other coach in NFL history that has more regular season wins and no playoff wins. That's the elder Jim Mora, who went 0-6.
Playoffs?
That guy.
It's him and Allen Iverson, 2 of the best sound bites of all time. Practice.
Lewis, also the 2nd longest tenured coach, with the firing of Andy Reid at the moment behind Bill Belichick. But Andy Reid, of course, with the Kansas City Chiefs now on 3rd and 2. Shot, yes, first down.
Wow.
Garrett Graham.
They actually wanted Andre Johnson on a deep crossing route, and it wasn't there.
And look at the relief on Matt Schaub's face. No one in this city has been more criticized and maybe blamed for what has happened down the stretch here with this Houston team than Schaub.
There's a flag down.
There is a flag down, just short of the 45.
Garrett Graham got up very slowly there.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, contact to the helmet of a defensive player. 15-yard penalty from the end of the run, first down.
It's going to be the second guy in, Vontez Burfict, I believe, and Lawson was fine. I think it's going to be Burfict coming in. So the initial hit is 99 Lawson. He's fine. Here comes the second one.
Yep.
Right there. Top of the helmet. Whenever you use the crown of the helmet to any part of the body, let alone the helmet, and look at Matt Schaub. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Again, he said, you know what, I'll take some of the blame down the stretch here. I have not been the quarterback that led this team to an 11-1 mark to start the season. As the Texans with a 1st and 10 now. Just trying to salt the clock away here, approaching the 2-minute warning. They've had some pretty big losses, Mike. I know they're 12-4, and all 4 of those losses have come to teams that have made the playoffs. But as they get set to perhaps go back up to New England, where they lost 42-14,
and it wasn't even, I mean, it was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter.
And there was the big Sunday Night Football loss at home to Green Bay, 42-24. But Houston so close, they can taste it now, leading the Bengals 19-13. Houston up 19-13 at the 2-minute warning at the Bengal 40. Trying to move on to a rematch with New England as Foster takes it for another first down. And that brings Foster up to 130 yards with that latest 10-yard gain. One of the big keys to what appears to be a Texans win.
Yeah, and that was his 40th touch of the game.
Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator for the Texans. We had a nice chat with him, and he didn't exactly pull back on his admiration of his big guy up front, J.J. Watt. Here's Phillips, a guy that has coached some of the best defensive players in the history of the game. Bruce Smith, Reggie White, Elvin Bethea. He says, I've never seen anybody do the things on the field that J.J. Watt has done this season. Shot, takes a knee, and it's just a formality here as Foster now is up to 174 total yards. The entire Bengal team 198 yards, and you can see the relief on Kubiak's face all week long, hearing how you're going to get your team back to the way it was playing. And Bob McNair, the founder of this franchise, who brought the team and football back to Houston, and the disappointment for Andy Dalton, the 2nd straight year in the town where he played his high school football and grew up, going to be on the short end of a playoff game. And that will do it. The Houston Texans survive a late season skid and beat the Cincinnati Bengals for the 2nd straight year in the wild card game. So, kind of as we expected, Mike, low scoring affair, defensive battle there for a while.
Yeah, we talked all week. It could be 13-10 type of game heading into the 4th quarter, and both defenses as advertised. J.J. Watt was a beast. Arian Foster dominated on the ground. Give that offensive line a ton of credit. But at the end of the day, I think it's the offensive line and the tailback for Houston and the defense.